At this time, I'll open up public comment to anybody in chambers first. It's a lot to say.
Good evening, everyone. Michael Boat, Loveland County. I wrote this letter to Steve Adams, and I shared it on social media, and then I thought how to email it, and I thought better yet, I think I'm just going to read it here tonight. Dear Steve, when I moved to Colorado almost 9 years ago, I landed in Loveland. It was my home for 3 years before moving to Fort Collins. And while I no longer live in Loveland, I still consider Loveland to be my Colorado hometown. Over the years, I have seen what your brand of corruption has done to innocent Loveland residents, and it's despicable. Innocent lives have been ruined, and no lawsuits or settlements will ever undo the damage you and your ilk have caused. You will soon leave your position with the city for one reason or another. Whether you are fired or whether you retire, it does not matter. You will leave behind a lasting legacy of shame. Shame upon yourself, shame upon your family, and shame upon the city of Loveland. No attorneys, no golfing buddies, and no prayer circles will save you from this. You will forever be remembered as that city manager who hit a female journalist and never apologized. Normal, healthy people apologize for their mistakes. It's that simple. Your lack of apology speaks volumes about your lack of character. Even if you do decide to apologize for your actions, it's too late. Your apology will never be worth the paper it's written on. And the worst part about your time with the city is that you have had the power all along to fix the mistrust, to fix the corruption. Instead, you chose to perpetuate both. And yes, I fully realize the irony of using shame as a tool against someone who clearly has no concept of the word. You and several members of council have demonstrated week after week, meeting after meeting, that shame is not a concept that you understand. I've told you before in public comment, but I feel compelled to tell you again. For as much as Bob Kaiser was a disgrace to the city of Loveland, he at least had the decency to resign and leave town. How you continue to sit in your chair at each meeting as though nothing is wrong is incomprehensible to anyone who's paying attention. I wish you luck with the rest of your time with the city of Loveland, and enjoy your raise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stacy Lynn, investigative journalist, Loveland County, Colorado. Tonight's comments are not a Loveland versus Fort Collins issue, but I will compare differences between the way both cities and their public libraries approach issues related to the people who do not live in houses. These people are commonly referred to as the homeless community or the unhoused. Fort Collins Old Town Public Library and the Loveland Public Library have these things in common. Both libraries are located downtown. Both libraries are visited by people who do not live in houses. Both libraries use taxpayer money to fund their operations. Diane LaPierre directed the Loveland Public Library until 2021. She is now the director at the Fort Collins Public Library. This sign is posted on the Loveland Public Library doors. It contains threatening and hostile words. I have copies of everything I refer to for each of you afterwards. There are no signs on the Fort Collins Public Library bathroom doors. This is the only thing you'll find on a bathroom, inside a bathroom at the Fort Collins Public Library. There are no signs on the bathroom doors on the outside in the Fort Collins Public Library. The only sign inside the women's bathroom in Fort Collins says, "You are so loved." It sits next to a jar of complimentary hygiene products for women. Patrons at the Fort Collins Library are greeted with warm welcome signs. The Fort Collins Library is spotless, and they know how to keep it clean without nasty signs that make people who don't have a home feel shame. They figured out how to do it. But don't think that Fort Collins got it right without some painful learning curves. In fact, this is a sign that was posted in Old Town Square. The sign makes fun of drowning puppies and kittens. It makes fun of people who have prosthetic limbs. This was posted outside the public bathrooms in Old Town Square in Fort Collins. It was paid for by Fort Collins taxpayers and posted by the DDA. The Fort Collins City Council didn't know anything about this sign until I stood up in front of them like I am right now and explained it to them. This sign was removed within hours. This presentation tonight is not to indict any city employee. It's another example of what happens when leadership goes astray, as was done on this stage. You don't need to shame people to have them cooperate. Treat them like humans, like you would expect. Thank you. And I'll approach DeLynn with copies for all of you.
Thank you. Thank you, Stacy. Stacy, can I ask, did you research any other cities or just Fort Collins?
Yes, actually, I have the opportunity to go to a lot of surrounding communities, and there are many solutions to the homeless issues that the Loveland Public Library is trying to address, and none of them involve shame. All of them involve really low-cost ways to handle the issues that the library staff is facing.
If you've got some issue, if you have anything on the other cities, I'd like to see that.
I'd be happy to do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy.
Mayor, if I can.
Yep. Go ahead, Councilor
Stacy,
Sampson.
just one, thank you for bringing this to our attention. A quick question for you. Well, I guess for you and potentially city staff, would you be willing to meet with our library, have a conversation, send an email even with just copies of what you wrote? Because I think, I appreciate that you took the position of maybe we weren't aware of it or, something like that. Because I think that might have been the case.
And the beautiful thing is that Diane LaPierre did just leave the city of Loveland and went to Fort Collins, and I know Fort Collins was experiencing some of the same things that Loveland is now experiencing, and she has implemented some beautiful programs. I mean, she's a wonderful asset to Fort Collins, and I'm sorry you lost her, but I think you're suffering for that.
Well, we have a beautiful director now, but, I think we'd be interested to hear what you shared tonight.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional public comment from inside chambers?
David Goldberg, Ward 1. I want to thank you all very much again for your willingness to look at the wireless issue in Loveland, make it safer for our citizens. I really feel, getting to know you all, that you are listening, and I think that's because you're really smart people. I also feel that most, if not all of you, would agree that if we could find a way to make the wireless technology in Loveland safer and still give the connectivity that we need, that you would all agree to do that. There is a question, though, that I do want to ask the council that I think is really important kind of in the long game of what we're doing technology-wise. And that question is, has Loveland already decided that it is going the route of being a smart city? At the end of my speaking, I'd like that answered if possible. So what is a smart city? A smart city is a technologically modern urban area that uses different types of electronic methods and sensors to collect specific data. Information gained from that data is used to manage assets, resources, and services efficiently and improve operations. sounds great, right? Wrong. Don't get me wrong, like all of you, I would love to see Loveland with a totally efficient and energy-saving technology in the city. I think we would all love to see that. But the concept of a smart city, to me, is the quintessential wolf in lamb's clothing. I think I got that right, yes. As I mentioned there, the essence of a smart city is intensive data collection. And what does intensive data collection involve? Well, as we've spoken about, and the only way that I'm aware of to ascertain or to accomplish intensive data collection is through advanced wireless technology. And that means really 5G. And that means that there would be small cell towers placed intensively all over Loveland. And that would mean that we as citizens would be further exposed to wireless radiation 24/7. That's just not a good solution for Loveland councils.
Thank you, Mr. Goldberg. City Manager, do you want to address the question about whether smart city, or do you like Kevin to come up?
Madam Mayor, I'd suggest that we allow our Department Director for Water and Power to provide a written response. I think part of the comment here is that Smart City has so many meanings to it that I think we would spend all night trying to talk about that here. We can send something back as to what some of those technologies are.
Kevin, all right, I trust you'll be able to get contact information.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Councilor Foley.
David, are you aware of some of the issues that are going on in Fort Collins currently, where they have cell phone dead zones?
I am not.
Okay. I'll see what I can find and I'll get it to you. My understanding is that Fort Collins is experiencing, with multiple different carriers, some extreme cell phone dead zones. And of course, it's being blamed on their lack of towers. But that's about all I have at this point. But it is out there and it's an issue that's coming to the forefront.
And I believe Loveland is in fairly good shape in that regard from what I've...
There's one right in front of my house.
Sure.
Why? I don't know, and trust me, I know how to check. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goldberg.
Thank
Is there anyone else inside chambers who wishes to give public comment?
Casey Mullins from Ward 2, and of course my iPad switched places, so now I can't see what I was after. Item 3.5 on your consent agenda. Yes, everybody has to deal with pay increases, all of that. What I question and would like to see it pulled so that public can comment is at the very beginning, it talks about that the pay plan is currently under review. And that HR will be coming back to you with information regarding that pay plan that is under review. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and just give a quick raise to everybody. Something about that, again, I know I've said it before, does not seem fiscally conservative as this council has said they are. A plan that's under review, I don't understand changing it in the middle of the review. So I just ask that that item be pulled. Thank you.
Councilor Sampson, do you have a question?
Well, I don't, because we'll pull later if we need to, but I appreciate you bringing this to our attention.
I do have a question, but it's really Holland.
Okay,
Yeah,
I think I saw Julia earlier.
Julia, are you available to us?
Well, if there was intent to pull the item.
No, this is an addition to Casey's question. I mean, the things that she's asking about.
Okay,
And
so,
Julia, I need to ask Julia a question. and I want everybody to hear it, so we need her to come downstairs.
All right, so we'll have Julia, I'm sure, is watching.
She'll be coming down here in a minute, we'll fit it in.
And I think it's, there
Nope,
you
there
are.
she comes. Oh, sorry. Julia, were you listening?
Come on up to this podium.
Were you listening to what Casey said about that she doesn't understand why we would be doing our direct charges with pay increases at separate times than the study that you're currently doing as far as the rest of the paid staff? Can you give us some background on what information your staff provides on a periodic basis, actually yearly, with our direct charge staff? Direct charge staff being the city manager, the city attorney, and the city judge that are under direct control of the
I don't
city
think
council.
that's Casey's question. I think she's questioning.
Oh.
3.5 is adopting a pay plan for all city employees,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
and which has that, what I read.
Okay, well, good, I'm glad I asked that question. Thank you. I'd still like
I
that.
can speak to.
Yeah, I'd still like you to
There are
talk
different
about it.
processes, so if I
I'm sorry,
understand.
just a quick interjection here, if I could, a question. Since we are currently in public comment, there has been a request for this item to have been pulled. I know Julia knows all this off the top of her head and can probably give it to us in a nutshell, but maybe it'd be more appropriate when the item is actually
If
being
it's gonna
addressed.
get pulled, but it might be able to give Casey an answer in case it's not pulled.
Yeah, if it's not
That's
pulled.
why I was,
Okay, well, if it's addressing Casey's specific question, I think, but the question you had, I think, sounds like
I'd
a
just
little bit
like
outside
to-
what Casey had said.
A little bit, yes, but it also overlaps with what Casey said. I'd like to hear what the difference is between the review processes for the staff as a whole and between our direct report staff.
I think I can address the question. So
and you heard Casey's.
I did
Yes,
hear some
okay.
parts of that. So Julia Holland, your Human Resources Director. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. If I understand correctly, there was a comment made about the compensation study and then doing increases in advance of the compensation study. So those are two different processes. We have our year-end processes, which citywide, we had the merit approved and the cost of living increase approved by City Council. In addition to that, we are in the middle of the compensation study for the organization, which we anticipate, do anticipate needing to make adjustments to our pay plan at that time. We actually are going to revise our entire pay plan. So we know there'll be adjustments, we just don't know yet what those will look like. And that's why this will come before you again. And we did get approval from you to have a certain amount set aside to address pay adjustments that we expect will be necessary at that time. So it is an entirely separate process.
So the basic answer is we're doing what we normally do at this time of year, and then there will be another meeting in maybe April.
Correct, and it is based on market data. So what has been approved by City Council for the end of year increases is also based on market data and the trends.
Thank you. Does that answer everybody's questions? All right, thank you, Julia. Is there additional public comment from anyone in chambers?
Yeah, well, I'm going to have something along that line.
Give us your name. and-
Yes, I will. I have I'm going to go, I have a problem with that. I'll go with Steveland this time, but at some point in the future, I'm going to go with something different just to clear up an issue. But right now, I have a certain issue with everybody watching and with everybody in this room. We're talking about a $25,000 bump for our city attorney, which is 13%. And I'm asking you out there watching, and I'm asking you in the room.
Mr. Lynn, I'm going to interrupt you for just 1 second because that item is on the agenda and there'll be public comment on both the city managers and the city attorneys.
Okay, may I address what Casey brought up and that item that was just addressed by the HR director?
So that is for our regular employees. It's not the city manager and city attorney's pay. So if you want to address that, go for it.
I cannot address what the
That
city
you want-
attorney will get.
You want to do that when we're on that item, you know?
But did HR just not address that?
She was talking about the annual,
For the city employees and not
Yeah,
for the
not-
three.
Yeah, Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Is there additional public comment from inside chambers?
Olivia Lowe, Ward 2, I might get bumped as well, I'm not quite sure, that was all very
Okay.
confusing.
Okay,
It does have to do with not only retaining our city manager and city attorney for that matter, but giving them a raise as well.
the raised portion, you want to wait until that comes up. And it's, it's not a very long agenda tonight. I think those items, fairly quick.
4.
Yeah,
Okay,
but as far as retaining employment, that's not going to be discussed at the.
okay, we'll go with that then.
Okay.
I think it's really appropriate that Martin Luther King group got their proclamation in tonight talking about equanimity and hiring people with disabilities, what have you. When you let go a city staff member based on the fact that this person needed accommodations, and not only was she not given those accommodations, but they decided that was just one great big fat hassle, and they decided just to let her go altogether. Another city employee was overheard saying the F word in the hallway, not in the office, just out in the hallway, what have you, and was not disciplined, was just absolutely let go on the spot. But then you can retain a city manager and a city attorney that tells a bold-faced lie to a deputy in a courthouse, and there is video to show that he was in fact lying, but not only does he get retained, he gets a raise. So go ahead and intimidate, harass, assault another human being on the clock, but don't get caught saying the F word out in the hallway, because you'll be let go immediately. Yeah, you guys wonder why we come up here week after week, month after month, complaining, what have you, but when you act this way, what do you expect? What do you expect? Hiring a consultant with the whole back to business campaign charade? Really? Who paid for that? And did you see the list of names on the petition, I guess you would call it? No last names, nope, just first names. Anybody else would have done that, you wouldn't have given that petition a second look. So yeah, we'll keep coming back week after week, month after month, until these charades end. It's ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. Is there additional public comment from inside chambers?
Hi, Bill Jensen, Loveland. So it was in chambers, recently. So it all begins back in October, on or about October 18th. Steve Adams was in court where he did not plead not guilty. So with that said, there was a city council meeting, I think that night, I think it was October 18th. So he was scheduled at that time to have a review. City council took a vote to postpone that review to November 7th. So as I take it, it was a council resolution to put that item on the agenda. And then come November 7th, there was no review, and the conversation was, well, what happened to the agenda item? And after an exchange on the dais, it was revealed that Steve Adams chose to pull his own review out of the agenda. So my question is why did you guys even bother voting to move that review to November 7th if Steve can arbitrarily pull it, and after he pulled it, there was no resolution on a further date. It was just dropped, poof. So that's one reason I'm up here tonight. So I'm kind of looking forward to an explanation on how you guys can vote on a resolution that Steve can just brush aside without authority. Also, I wanted to point out that on November 1st, during public comment, there was a comment from the public, and then John Fogel made a clarifying question to Moses, and the question was, hey Moses, was Bill Cahill fired? Was Bill Cahill fired? And Moses Garcia said, no, he was not fired. And so my issue with that is, I believe that is a violation of the executive summary non-disclosure clause. So these items I'm bringing forward tonight is about what's happening up here during council meetings.
All right, I see Councilor Sampson, your light was on first.
Yeah, well, and we're really supposed to ask clarifying questions here, Phil.
To me.
Yes, but you asked us a quick question about timing, dates, things like that, resolution. Would you like to receive the response to that in email or have it just explained right now?
Well, so that was an agenda item that was at a public meeting, and it was just, tossed aside. So because this is a public meeting, I think the public should hear how that was resolved.
Okay, I think that's fair, and I was the one who brought the motion on October 18th. So it was not originally on the agenda for that day to talk about what had happened on that day with the hearing and everything with our city manager Adams.
Was he supposed to have a review on October 18th?
No, sir. I don't remember that was on the agenda for that time. But what we did decide was that we would push that conversation to the review, and then the review was pushed to a later date.
What was the original review date?
I don't remember the date.
November 15th, but this might be a discussion with Moses.
If this is, maybe something we could share at a public time at a later date or something, I'd be comfortable with that.
But I do remember that the city council, you guys took a resolution vote to postpone his review to November 7th.
It was to address the.
Yeah,
we didn't actually take the vote. It was brought up, but it didn't get.
it was to delay talking about the criminal charges, to have that coincide with the performance review, which was slated for November 15th.
November 15th.
That's what happened on October 18th.
And if I remember correctly, we just did consensus, really. We didn't even actually vote on them to the item.
Yeah.
So it did happen, but it wasn't by vote and it wasn't by resolution.
And I would like to clear up something else, the Bill Cahill. So that was, I think, our city attorney speaking off the cuff. He immediately sent an email to all of council correcting himself. I think it was 8:20 that evening that Cahill was indeed fired. So city attorney attempted. Problem is we don't have old business on our agenda, so you can't really address something that happened the week before. It's a flaw in our agendas. Yeah, we need to go business clear. Okay.
So my problem is that John Fogel would ask the city attorney about something that happened at executive session.
No.
Yeah. So, Councilor Olson.
Yeah, I think it needs to be pointed out that the city manager did not arbitrarily change the November meeting. He was asked to change it because we had two councilors that were absent, and we felt it was important that those two councilors be present. I was one of them, the councilors that asked that the meeting be rescheduled.
I was traveling at the time. For city business.
Okay, yeah, we're supposed to ask clarifying questions, so, all right, so we'll recover. Okay, and then I'm trying to resolve some of the other things for Mr. Jensen. I don't know if that's city, really probably for non-conflict of interest, it should probably be the city attorney that sits down with Mr. Jensen and kind of goes over all the dates. Does that make sense, city attorney?
Madam Mayor, I'm happy to do that.
Okay. All right, we'll schedule some time. And your clarifying question?
The only thing I want to ask Moses a clarification of, Moses, when we're deciding from the agenda, we're deciding to push meetings, pull meetings, whatever we're doing with meetings, those are procedural items. They're not resolutions and they're not ordinances. Is that correct?
Councilmember Vogel, for the most part, that is true. Every now and then you do use it as a motion to take care of business, but for the most part, it's just direction.
It's just direction to staff. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there additional public comment from inside chambers?
Yes, my name is Bill Mooney, and I'm a resident of Loveland County.
Sir, can you speak up a little bit or get closer to that mic? They don't work all that well.
Okay, Bill Mooney, resident of Loveland County. And during that meeting, when I made the statement that Bill Cahill had been fired 9-0, Moses Garcia, actually, I think, called me a liar, told you and the public that he wasn't fired. And no one, I don't know if he's ever apologized, but no one has ever heard him apologize publicly. So I'd like to have a public apology tonight from Moses Garcia for calling me a liar.
No clapping, please.
Should I wait till my 3 minutes is up, or should I
Yeah.
assume?
Great.
I was president, I didn't hear him call you a liar.
Oh, I used the wrong word then. He told you that Bill Cahill hadn't been fired. I had just told you that he had been fired. I don't know what you would call that. But that to me is calling me a liar in front of all the people that are watching and listening.
So
What would you call that?
Stay with clarifying questions, not debating, please.
So I know you can't answer now, but what would you classify that as?
And let me see if you have a clarifying.
Yes, I
Go ahead,
do, Moses.
Councilor Vogel.
Shortly after you made that error, you sent us an email, and it was to open council email. So it was broadcast to the public at that point through OpenGov and through our email system, correct?
Councilmember Vogel, I don't recall if it was private or not, but I did send an email within an hour
Seconds,
clarifying.
yeah, well, it wasn't very long. Okay, thank you.
So can I respond to that?
You have 44 seconds.
So I'm not sure what the email said or who it was presented to, but I don't know if anyone has ever heard him publicly apologize. He may have apologized, maybe he apologized to you, but did he apologize to me or the public for calling someone a liar or not presenting the facts straight correctly? So maybe no one knows who the apology was sent to. I would love to know who it was sent to.
Moses, would you be able, assuming that wasn't private, to send him a copy of that?
Madam Mayor, the privilege of that communication belongs to this council. This council would have to choose to waive it.
Is there any objection to waiving and allowing the release of that?
I would say that Moses needs to send it to us.
Wasn't it public? It's already done.
That's what I'm looking for, I
don't
can't
know
find
if
it.
it was public. It was that evening, about 8:20 p.m.
What date is it?
I'm sure the public hasn't heard that either.
Was it
The
October
council
18th?
can't even remember
Was it
that.
October 18th? Yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay, so why don't we review and if possible, we can get council's approval to release it via email. All right, thank you. Is there additional public comments from inside chambers?
Hi, my name is Deb Zuris, and I'm from Ward 4. I am here because of you, because of what you do and how you behave. How you behave, how you behave. That's why I'm here. I don't want to beef. I don't want to be pissed at Loveland. It's because of you guys. And until you guys fix it, I'll come here. And I'll come here, and come here, and come here. Okay? Fix it.
Thank you. All right, is there additional public comment from inside chambers?
Kathy Bullard, Ward 2. I think the gentleman deserves a public apology. I'm offended that that has not happened, and I would like to hear from the people here. If you think that you would like to hear that apology.
Kathy, you want to direct the comments
Then,
to us?
well, okay, let me say how offended I am. I'd like to see other people say that.
Thank you, Kathy.